Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday morning, and welcome to another edition of Get Busy with Kit and Jim. We're going to get busy here talking about oversaturated HOAs. Well, I guess we're going to debate whether or not we are oversaturated with HOAs. We're also going to get into Ello a little bit as well. There's some really cool new social media platforms out there, and so we want to talk about that today. And wow, we've got the most awesome and amazing panel. I think one of the largest panels we've ever had on Get Busy, or at least in a long time, which is great. So we should get a lot of really good awesome perspectives on HOAs and what's going on in the HOA world. So, hey, good morning, Kit.
Good morning.
How was the big move, Kit?
I'm surrounded by boxes, so I'm living in a warehouse. I'm trying to unpack them. But it's fun. It's like I'm kind of excited, like a kid opening his Christmas presents. I'm really excited to see what box holds what secrets, and so I'm like getting reconnected with my belongings. So the whole week is going to be dedicated to that. But Get Busy comes first.
Yay! All right. Hey, okay, and rest of the dream panel. Let's just go down. Let's start with Christine. Good morning, Christine. How are you this morning?
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Jim and Kit. Thank you for having me. I'm doing excellent. I'm really excited about this conversation, and I have to thank Kristen for kicking my butt to join the panel. She was like, "What? You're not joining the panel?" So thanks to Kristen.
Wow. Yeah, and you look amazing.
Thank
This
you.
morning. Hey, John. Good morning. How's it going?
Morning, Jim. How you doing?
I am good.
Me
Good,
too.
good. What's the good word for the day?
Just be happy.
Don't worry. Be happy.
Well, I tell you, I have an 87-year-old friend who opens our local YMCA every morning. And his words of wisdom every morning at 5:15 when he unlocks the door are these: any day above ground's a good day.
Yeah.
True.
That's my words of wisdom for the day.
I can relate to that. Hey, Kristen. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Let's get this going. I love how you said it was going to be a debate. I'm like, oh yeah? I haven't done that since high school.
Okay, we're going to debate the good, the bad, the ugly with HOAs. Hey, Mark. Welcome, first timer on Get Busy. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, James. I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody.
Oh, good morning and welcome. So, okay, well, let's jump right into it. So, one of the reasons that I actually came up with a brainstorm for this particular idea is that I've honestly noticed on our show, we're not getting the viewership that we had at the beginning, about a year ago or so when we I'm sorry, in January, when it became Kit and Jim Get Busy. We had a large audience at that time, and the audience has gradually kind of diminished a little bit. I mean, not a whole lot, but a little bit. We still have great engagement. We still have an awesome, amazing audience, but the numbers were down. And I started to look at some other HOAs, and this is by no means any kind of statistical analysis, but I noticed that it seems like some of the other HOAs are down a little bit in numbers as well. And so that just prompted me to think, well, are there too many HOAs? Are people getting burned out on HOAs? Is there not enough differentiation between the HOAs? Do we just suck? I mean, what is it? What is it that's driving the numbers kind of in the different direction? And I know another thing that we're competing with is not only a lot of HOAs, which I think is probably actually a good thing, but we're also competing with what I call information overload. There's just so much there's so much noise out there. There's so much information coming at us from 100 different directions, and this is just one more thing that kind of adds to the noise. So I kind of wanted to talk about all of that. HOAs, what's good about them, what's not so good. Are we oversaturated, or is this just a kind of a normal thing? So let's get right into it, and let's start with John, because John, in the green room, you had some really interesting perspectives. So I'll start with you. What say you about the HOA situation?
Much ado about nothing. See, Kristen, now we can debate. Uh, one of the comments I made in the green room is, unfortunately, I'm old enough to remember when cable TV began. And I remember that when cable TV started, there were 600 channels, 599 of which had no value. And my wife and I were talking the other day about the fact that you go back when we only had 3 channels of TV, and all the Golden Globes and the Emmy Awards and those type of things went to network TV. No one ever dreamed or imagined that cable TV would, or satellite TV would, be reaping and garnering those rewards. I think the same thing's true with HOAs. I think there's going to be a natural selection process. I think the people that are serious for using them as a platform to advance their business or to advance their philosophy, or however they choose to use it, I think those are the people that are going to be successful. I think, fortunately or unfortunately, we've got to go through some growing pains in order to get to that spot where things are going to flow much easier. You know, the other comparison to television is simply this: you have a choice whose HOA you watch. I know I have a handful that I attend religiously. Some that are a little later in the evening for me I catch on the replay. There are a lot of them out of there, and I just think you have to be a selective viewer.
Sorry, yeah, John, I agree 100%. I think you have to be a selective viewer. I think the amount of HOAs that are out there are great because now there is a choice, and you can kind of find your niche, right? You can find out which HOA trips your trigger. So let's go into hey Christine, I'm sorry. What are your thoughts on this?
Wow. Yeah, as John said, let the debate begin. I don't believe that we're saturated with HOAs. I have to agree with John's line of thinking. I believe that I've heard from here and there on the corners of the plus that this is the year of the HOA. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs who are trying it out, trying to gain traction, trying to get their voice heard. Mark Seidel just said something that I want to call attention to. Of course, I don't have it on Comment Tracker, but he said that, no one wants to be marketed to. And I just quoted Jeffrey Gitomer, who says, people love to buy, but nobody wants to be sold. So I think there's a little hesitancy there from the audience perspective. But from the host perspective, I think that going against the grain, not following the status quo. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs who are jumping online, looking at what others are doing, and doing a copycat kind of a thing. So as entrepreneurs, if we want to leverage this tool, originality will take us a long way, as well as focusing more on attracting the right people to your shows, or not just to your show, but to your message. And if they're attracted to your message, then they'll naturally follow you to the show. I'll stop.
Yeah, great perspective, Christine. And yeah, I found Mark's comment. He says, I believe people want entertainment and not marketing HOAs. And I agree. I think there's a fine line. I think there is some really good opportunity for a show. You know, I'm gonna, of course, get busy a little pat on the back here. But I think there is definitely an opportunity for a show like ours that's more information-based. Our niche is geared towards people who are interested in learning more about business and how to be successful in business. And I think for sure there's an opportunity for a good opportunity for a show like this. But I do agree with Mark, and I agree with what you said, Christine. You have to find your niche. You have to make it entertaining. You have to give people who want to watch the show a reason to come back, show after show after show. So I think it is important to bring an entertaining element into it. And speaking of entertainment, we're fortunate to have somebody on our panel who's in the music business. And the reason why I invited him in, because he said, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was information overload and the fact that there's so much noise out there. And I think these days it's more of a challenge for people in business or in the business to get their voice heard. And so Mark brings a perspective from the music industry, so I'd like to hear a little bit from Mark and what some of the issues are with information overload or trying to get your voice heard in the music industry.
I think it's, thanks, James, appreciate it. The biggest thing that I can see, and then there's a lot I can relate to in this whole subject that you brought up, that's why I chimed in on your events page, was that this isn't something new. It's like John said, it's very much an evolution, it's very much a normal course of events. And it's about going back and using other items in our history to use as examples. And it's really easy to look at podcasts as a great example. Podcasts, when they first started out, were basically very rough around the edges, and they had a bunch of people jumping in, and nobody paid attention to it, and everybody thought that it was just kind of something else that was there. And as it grew, you now see thousands and thousands of podcasts out there, and many of them are just as good, if not better, than terrestrial radio. And so they've become, now there's still thousands of them, and the ones that are the best will rise to the top. But you have a plenty of a TV guide type of an options on iTunes or whatever to go through and find out what your interest is. You're going to watch what you're interested in. And so cream rises to the top. So what you're talking about is I call this 2014 the year of saturation. For my industry and for music, it's amazing. It started out with the artists being the ones that came into the area. They all wanted to be artists, and they all said, oh, indie artists do, and they jumped into the plat show. This year, they're starting to switch gears, and a lot of them that wanted to be artists are realizing they couldn't make it in the trade. They're going to be the filter, and they're going to start blogs, and they're going to start doing what I do, which is putting out the message and covering the music industry, and now that's starting to become the minutia. So getting through the shout, the answer really is quality. Is bring up your quality and strive to be the best you can be, and with time the communities as such as us will end up producing better and better shows, and that cream will rise to the top. Those that aren't doing that will start to emulate and start to follow that group that is doing that, and the market will rise. There's no reason to be afraid of too much shouting and all that. You just got to make your own niche, who you are as an individual.
Yeah, I agree 100%. What are some of the things that you think HOAs can do to kind of stand out and differentiate themselves from?
Have a good message. I mean, you see a lot of the hangouts that are on the platform. The Just Scott and You show is going to be up with Jessica Duell and Scott Scowcroft this morning. They do a great example of just what I'm talking about. They've got a very good message, a good theme, and a direction, and they take that, and then they've got a few bells and whistles, that repurposing and being able to do the media that brings in a little bit higher. Not everybody can do that, but that's what you've got to do. You've got to try to make yourself a little bit different from the crowd, and strive to reach up a little bit higher. Creativity is the biggest thing. You can do that with creativity. And I'll give you a good example of this. There was a show that Google Plus did about a year ago, and this was before the platform had a lot of the bells and whistles, but it was kind of cool because they had the creativity to do this. They had a host came in with will.i.am, and he had an album that he just came out with, and they had a stool sitting between the two of them with a hat on it. And they had their commentator talking to Will, and both of them were in the room, and they were talking to each other, and the hat was there. All they had was one chair and a hat, but that was the theme of the album because Will had worn a hat. That was creativity. And just that little bit of a touch changed the whole spectrum of the show. They did a few other things, but that was a great example of what I'm talking about. Just add a little creativity.
Right, yeah, and I think, with HOAs, it's a blank canvas, and we can really do just about anything that we want to do with the HOAs. We can take them in any direction that we want to. So why not do something different to stand out, to kind of put a stamp on who you are, what your brand is, right, and how you can kind of bring something different to the equation.
Very good.
So really, panelists, just jump right in. Christine, I know I saw you clapping over there. What do you want to add?
Mark's pushing my creativity buttons. He's, I sent in our group chat here inside the HOA room that I wanted to follow up on what he's saying, and he basically said it. So I love you already, Mark. Creativity is the key. and I'll be touching on this later with Andy, is as entrepreneurs, we forget, just as people, we forget that creative side or mindset, that part of our mind that where all new and original things are birthed. And each person has a unique perspective. So if we just take the time to stop following the crowd with HOAs and go within and go to that place where creativity is birthed, you'll be amazed at the ideas that come to you. And if you have the courage to implement them, that will help you to stand out. That's why Jess Scott and you stands out so much, because they're not following the crowd. They're going within and doing what feels right to them and what's natural to them. And that's what appeals to us so much about their show.
Oh, and Christine does that with your shows too, Christine. I absolutely love them. I mean, you've done like, what, 3 or 4 shows so far? But each one of them is like memorable because you take the time. I have not seen any HOA host research her guests as much as Christine does. I mean, she really takes the time to get to know her guests. You can see it. I mean, the way she recites quotes from books, the way she throws in her own quotes. I mean, it's just amazing to see her have that kind of chemistry with her guests, which is what I think is very important in Hangouts. If you want to stand out, is that chemistry between the hosts and the guests. Because a lot of times I've seen people bring on guests that don't really fit in with the team, but they come on just because they're popular. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen, is that don't just, bring on popular kids just to kind of prop yourself up a little bit, because that's just going to be like a short-term surge in our popularity. You have to do something different, like Mark and Christine said, be original, be curious, be creative, to stand out from the crowd and leave your own footprint in people's hearts. Don't just hang out to somebody else's coattails and try to prop yourself up. Do something that makes you stand out from the crowd. So I think chemistry is also a big deal with Hangouts. The good ones, really, you can see the chemistry between the hosts and the guests, and you just want to keep listening to them forever. And that's why Mia Voss, for example, does so well with her shows, because she knows how to communicate with her guests. I mean, it's like a tea party. I love watching her shows because it's just fun. That's the theme of her shows. It's like entertainment with a lot of some information thrown in. But the key theme is entertainment. She knows how to communicate with people. She has the charisma that draws people into her, and she has her own, like her brand, her tiara. Everyone talks about her in Google Plus. I mean, that's how you stand out. Some simple things like that makes you memorable in people's minds. So I think that's also very important.
Here. Well said.
Yeah, yes, very well said. I think anything that you can do to stand out is definitely definitely a plus. I like Christine. One of the things that came up in the comments when you were in the comment section. One of the things that you said is that your show is definitely different, and you do some things like, for example, you don't necessarily do a weekly show. You do a show if and when necessary. So maybe talk to that a little bit, and maybe talk to some of the things that you're doing to differentiate yourself.
Oh, well, first I have to thank Kit for her props for my show. I don't set out to be different. That's the first thing. That's not my intention. What I set out to do is, in everything I do on social media and in my life, is to truly represent who I am, what's passionate to me, and how I'm here to make a difference in the world. So that spills over into, of course, CLB Live. And on CLB Live, because, in quotes, this is the year of the HOA, I didn't really, first of all, I didn't want to pressure myself to have a weekly show. That was a personal decision. I just said I don't want to pressure myself, because I know I won't be able to bring the quality that I'm used to bringing to everything that I do. So I just thought I'll just go with the flow. And the first show happened by one of my very best friends and mentors approaching me, Simon T. Bailey. And as they say, the rest is history. I just decided from that one show, the first show, to feature people who impact me deeply and inspire me daily. And that is part of my mission. And I think that's what I shared earlier. When you come from a place of passion, Kit just shared that, something that moves you and you have that connection with the people that are on the show, that's the magic formula to me. Thanks for letting me share.
Kristen, what do you think?
Okay, I love what you were talking about with chemistry. Because, okay, so I'm going to use myself as an example. With ABFTE, I love every single member in there. But once we got on air, it was like there was something that was just a little off, and it was just like our chemistry on air, where we still, you know, we'll comment in streams and stuff, and it's still there, but just on air, it's like we're finding ourselves. And I think that's what we do, because we are communicating from like one part of the world to the next, even from one neighborhood to the next. We don't know until we get on air how we're going to work together, how our voices are going to bounce off of each other, like what is going to ignite. So I absolutely love what you said there, and I think that can be illustrated within the different platforms as well, because when we go to one platform, our message may not resonate. We get somewhere else, and we explode, right? Like some people, like kiddo, you're like in Facebook, and I could never do what you do in Facebook. I just don't have that. I don't know. I don't even know what it is, because if I did know what it was, then I would probably try and do it. but I don't have it, and where like I have a little bit more success, I think, over in G+ than I do in some of the other platforms. But it's all about chemistry. It's all about trying it out, and that's what it comes down to, is just trying and being willing to give yourself that freedom, that enjoyment to put yourself out there and see what comes back to you.
Right, and I think that's a great point, Kristen. I'm trying, not super successfully so far, but I'm trying to explore how to bring Get Busy into some of the other platforms, because, like, for example, LinkedIn is a very business-centric social media platform, and so I'd love to build an audience of people from LinkedIn for the Get Busy show. To be honest, and I've started to play around with LinkedIn a little bit. I've started to engage. I've started to write some articles on Pulse, but I'm also kind of a little bit lost on LinkedIn. I mean, to be completely honest, it's a platform that is harder to engage. For me, it's harder to engage with people over there than it is over here on Google+.
Yeah.
Your difference in all the platforms, Twitter acts a different way, LinkedIn, et cetera, is a different thing. But you keyed in on something right there that I try to do, and you see me do it in the shows that I do. I don't have a weekly show. I want to have quality. But what I'll do is I'll go outside of the platform and bring back people from the other areas or from places I meet, other sites, or on outside in the real world, and bring them into the platform. And I think I've seen you do this a little bit, James, because you've had your shows that you've done, your e-commerce type shows that you've done.
Yes, I think Jim does a really good job of networking outside Google+, because that is, I would say, my pet peeve, is that sometimes Hangouts are geared completely towards a Google+ platform. So if you're not familiar with the names that are being thrown out in the videos, you'd be like, okay, what's going on over here? Because sometimes the panelists who have such good chemistry with each other, they share like jokes, but the audience does not know what they're talking about, because you got to remember that Hangouts are not just on Google+. They are forever resting on YouTube, and anybody, if it's a public show, can stumble upon it. So, I mean, when you see a show that's totally geared towards Google+, sometimes I go back on Replay City and I watch it, and I don't understand what they're talking about, because I've not been following them very keenly on Google+. So sometimes I think it's very important to take Hangouts outside of Google+ and find people from other platforms or just offline and try to bring them in. So this way, even they will be introduced to a new platform, and you will be introduced to a new audience. So it's a win-win situation in both the directions, I think. John, what do you think?
You know, and I'm a student of history. My archetype is that historically that's my real strength. And, you know, I was thinking while I was listening to Kristen talk, You go back to the mid 80s when the whole team concept started, and everybody was going to be on a team, and everybody was going to be the CEO of the company, and everybody was going to run the world. And then gradually what we started to do is we started to find out what we did really well. When Kristen talked about the awkwardness sometimes of going live, there's just some people that are never going to have great camera presence, or they're never going to be natural on air, but they're going to find their niche within this community. They're going to exploit it by helping other people like Jim, whose niche is on air, okay? And that's where I see this evolving to the point people are going to kind of play with this for a while and say, hey, one of the things I stumbled, a real good example, because I'm still relatively new at this. This is January for me, so this is 9.5, 10 months. But one of the things I've kind of zeroed in on, my first love is training and development. That's what I love to do. And one of the things I've noticed on real good Hangouts is good content. Well planned, natural, yes, but good contact. When I'm hemming and hawing and saying, well, gee, I don't find that entertaining, and I don't know what the rest of you think. I just don't often find that entertaining when somebody's totally and completely lost. One thing Jim does really well, he had me as a guest on his last show. I got an agenda 2 days before. And I saw, and he had questions. I'm not going to get to all these questions, John, but you need to be prepared to answer these. When we went live, I was totally and completely comfortable with the format because I knew what was expected of me. And I think, you know, you've got folks like Andrew Hatchett out there who do an exceptional job of helping people understand the technical format of the Hangout, but there are so many other areas that go into to make this successful. People like Jim are a natural at a lot of things of what they do, and I think it's a monkey see, monkey do thing. People sit out there and say, oh, well, Jim Fierce can do this, I can do this. Well, maybe you can, but maybe your niche lies in another area. Okay, I'm going to shut up now.
That's very true.
No, please don't shut up, John.
You know, hold on, kid. I love that because you're so right. Because if Fierce can do it, literally anybody in the world can do it. Because you know what? I knew absolutely, like I was scared poopless when I first started going into that, deciding, you know what, I'm going to do a show. I'm going to do a live on-air hangout. Man, I was terrified. And even maybe 3 months in, it was still kind of scary. Now it's not nearly as scary because I've learned how to prepare myself, do you know what I mean, and prepare for the show before it actually starts. But wow, yeah, it can be a big, scary, hairy beast. And yes, you're right. If Fierce can do it and get through it and put together a somewhat cohesive show, man, literally anybody can, for sure.
I think you guys have touched on a big point, though, is preparedness. I mean, I spend a lot of time on preparing for a show, and if I do, then it all goes like clockwork. It's so much easier, and it all flows. If you don't be prepared, if you're not prepared, you've got problems for sure.
Hey, Mark, go ahead. I'm going to come back to you, Mark, because I have a few questions for you. But go ahead, Kit.
No, again, when you talked about preparedness, I think of Christine again. I'm sorry. To me, she's like the ideal host, so I have to keep going back to her. She sends like emails. Even Jessica Jewell does this actually. She sends emails to her guests about, reminding them about the show, telling them, what we're going to talk about, and it's like this long email that it's so packed with information, and you know exactly what you're getting when you go on a show. And I don't know, how do you do that, Christine? I mean, how long does it take for you to, prepare like for a hangout? Can you just talk about your, how do I say it, your procedure or your steps that you take to,
Yeah, a lot of people may think of my process as woo-woo. Let's just get that out the way. I'm very organic with how I live my life, which includes building business. And so for HOAs, first, thank you. You know, your brilliance is in your blind spot. I have to keep looking around like, who are they talking about? So thank you. I just do what I know to do, which is to prepare. Preparation is key. John touched on it, Mark touched on it. So basically, I set the date. If it's a book, an author, I give my time enough, give myself time to read the book so I can get familiarized with everything and feelings out of it. And then the week of, that's game time. So a week out, I send the first email just detailing the basic run of the show and what to expect. Typically, I have guests who are not traditionally on Google Plus regularly, so I will host test sessions, and that's a way to get the chemistry going before the live show. So this past show with Brandy Raris, who is deaf, she had an interpreter, so we had to go through logistics. So imagine not preparing for that. So we did a preparation, and it was awesome. I had another thought, but I'll stop there. I don't want to take up too much airtime.
No, I want to hear the other thought.
The other thought is just to follow up on what everyone's been saying about HOAs, and John, you made excellent points about knowing what your intention is, knowing what your niche is. I think entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs, excluding Get Busy, the reason I'm always hanging out on Get Busy, everyone, is because, yes, I have to agree, Jim and Kit are very thorough, they're very prepared, very professional, and I love that. And they do different things. They don't always host the same people over and over and over again. But a lot of folks don't give themselves or afford themselves time to go through the discovery process of branding. For me, everything falls back to the personal brand. And if you don't allow yourself to go through that discovery process, you cannot truly know, number one, what makes you tick, and number two, who your target audience is. And it's not just knowing and doling out content pertaining to that. It's truly engaging with these individuals in your network so that, again, they can champion you, you're championing them. So when time comes now for you to host an HOA, if that is your passion, if that's something that you like to do, being on video, then by all means, your network's going to flow with you. One person that comes to mind is James Wedmore, and he was recently on Jason T.Y.'s podcast, On Track Tips. And Jason asked him, why you love video. James is like the video king. And he said, why aren't you doing HOAs? And he said, it doesn't interest me. So he's an expert, but doesn't mean he's going to jump on the bandwagon.
All great points, Christine. Yep, totally good. Okay, you know what? I since Mark is on the show, I want to say just for a minute, we've got some requests to get into the Ello discussion, and I promise we'll get there. But since Mark has shown up on the show, I'm fascinated with the music business. So I'd like Mark maybe to just take us in a little different direction here, just for a second. I want to learn about what Mark's doing with the music business, where he thinks the music business is going in the next year, and I'm kind of obsessed with The Voice a little bit. So I don't know if there are any The Voice fans on here, but I don't want to steer in too different of a direction. But Mark, since you're on this show, I want to touch on the music business a little bit.
I don't consider myself an expert in the music business. There's plenty of people out there that are actually true experts. Steve Rennie with his show that does the whole different show on a different platform. Those are true experts. I'm really a heavy hobbyist and a fan. That's where my whole emphasis started from. And then I built it from there. As far as where the music industry is going, nobody knows, because now it's controlled by the people. And if you know what the people's like, it depends on which way the crowd goes. So it's gonna change. It's gonna fluctuate. There is no guarantee. The only guarantee in the music industry is that it's gonna happen a lot faster and a lot quicker than it ever has. And so the bigger companies and the large labels and stuff have a hard time pivoting, because companies that are large take time to make decisions. And they're starting to learn, and it's starting to get faster. But that's the biggest quantitative thing that I can say about the music business, happening fast, and so fast that nobody knows what's going to happen next. And your ability to be able to stay and pivot is the thing that's going to make you go up the ladder in the music business. So that and talent and perseverance and hard work and all the other things that required of any business.
Right. You know, Daria Musk blew up on Google Plus. Now, I don't know if there are too many other artists who have done the same thing, but I think there's a huge opportunity.
You have to realize she got help, though, because at the time that the platform was starting in Google Plus, they started suggested user lists, and there was a half a dozen, 20 people that they put on the suggested user list. If you get on the suggested user list, your numbers go up into the millions and nothing flat. So that type of help was a big help. Then she had help from the Google overall and corporate-wise, and got shuffled towards being a corporate sponsor for Google and being the smiley face towards it. And there's nothing wrong with what she's done. I mean, everybody would hope and dream to be to have that happen, you know. And she's carried that torch very well. You know, that smile, bubbly face, and she has grown tremendously as an artist. I mean, I can't say more good things about her. I mean, she's done great, but that didn't come without some luck. You know, without some things that were in the right place, the right time. So.
Right, and you know what? To be honest, that happens for probably every artist who blows up and goes big. Is there's that luck factor that comes in, but still, I think there's an untapped. I think there's a huge opportunity for more artists to take advantage of the HOA platform.
Oh,
I mean, think of the concerts and the creativity, and I mean, you could literally almost do a video live, you know. Using
I'll give you an example of the challenges that I have as far as getting artists on the platform. Is most of them do not have the technical savvy to be able to set up their mic and get through the sound. And we have a visual media here, but at the same time, when you start mixing it into music, you have to have the sound, because it grades on your unconscious nerve, and you are not going to be comfortable and you're not going to enjoy the show if you don't have quality sound. And that's the biggest thing. And so they can't get over that hurdle. I have some answers to that, and I don't want to go into that, but that's the biggest hurdle, and it's hard to get them over there. Over here, they're just as intimidated at this media as we are. Okay, so you're talking about intimidation and wanting to get out there and do a hangout and don't be afraid. Well, they're just as afraid as anybody else.
Wow, that's a great perspective, Mark. Thank you for that. Great. Okay, so now let's jump into some of the other social media platforms, and let's talk about Ello. So who on the panel has jumped into Ello?
Me.
Okay, Kristen. So what's been your experience on Ello? How did you hear about it? I guess first of all, how did you hear about Ello, and what made you want to try and check it out?
Honestly, Eli for now. He's just like, I just think he's fabulous. He always cracks me up, and he always has such an interesting perspective. And I saw him do a little post on something, and I was like, what? What is this? A new platform? What? And I'm always like, you know, early, whatever. What do they call it? I can't even think of it right now. But
adopter?
Yeah. So whenever I hear of something, like I have so many different profiles, it's ridiculous. Because I always try everything out. So I was like, one more to try out. So I went over and I was like, okay, where do I go for this? And it just so happened that I was talking with Griswold Grimm, and he said, well, I have an Ello invite. I haven't even gone in there yet. I'm like, hello. And then I went over into my email and realized that Christopher House had given me an invite as well. And so it was nice. So I went over and checked it out, and right away it was like so much white space, and it's so different than everywhere else, because like you can't find anywhere where there's so much white space. So it was very calming, and it just kind of gave me the sense that this is something new. And so I looked up everything, like all the information that they had on it, and they have this category WTF. It just cracked me up right there. It's like, oh, you've got me at WTF. And so I know it was ridiculous, but the more little quirky things that I found, I was just like, this is really interesting. And then I started realizing like the history of it, that it was artists that came together to make this platform. And I consider myself, having dabbled in art as a performance art major in college. So, yeah, it's just like really fascinating. And then once I started to be there, I started looking for people, and the search to try to find others, that's kind of difficult. It is. So you just have to go through people that are already there that you know, and go through and see who are their friends, like who they followed and stuff, and then you get connected that way. But that's almost like a nice way to do it, because then you start seeing people that are connected, and you start being able to trace and make those mind maps in your head. And it was really, really nice way to get people that you wouldn't normally connect with to connect with you over there, because everyone is new. And so it's like there's this basal point where everyone's just starting out, you know, and we're having to learn all together at the same time. So I just really like that. So is anyone else over there?
So, yes,
over
Kristen,
here.
I joined, and I've got a whole 2 followers now. And I actually did my first post. It was a little challenging, not a lot challenging, but a little challenging to even figure out, like, how do you post on this platform?
Yeah.
Like, how do you find other people, and how do you search? It's all a little bit of a confusing jumble to me right now, but I have followed about close to maybe 30 people. A lot of them, definitely a lot of art, a lot of creativity, a lot of just kind of weirdness over there. But I noticed you've been successful in meeting people, so maybe you can talk about how you've met people and how that's gone.
Just, I think, recognizing people's names from over here. Of course, I like to use the analogy of the G plus snail. I carry my home on my back everywhere I go. So just recognizing names. And then I think when I got in there were only, gosh, there were not a ton of G plus people over there yet. Like, I remember greeting Martin Shervington, and that was like really fun to do, because you know he's huge over here, and you know I'm not, but but it was fun, and he connected right back. So that's one example of being able to connect with people. I think the more you try to reach out, the more people are going to recognize your name, because your name's coming up in their streams. And they're going to reciprocate. The more persistent, the more consistent that they see you are, they'll reciprocate. I wanted to mention also, Mark Trapagan has a great Ello guide. So if anyone is confused or needs direction on how to post or any aspect of a platform, if you do a search for Ello guide, he will come up #1. And is really, really been helpful, and he's really good about keeping it up to date.
Oh, cool. Okay. So yeah, so I have probably plenty of invites, because I don't think I've invited maybe a couple of people into Ello. So if anyone wants an invite, I know Kit you do, so I'll hook you up.
I'll take one.
Mark, okay,
I
good.
haven't checked it out yet. I want to go over and see. I don't think I'm gonna have the time for another platform, but I'm gonna try to check it out.
Right.
Yeah, me too.
Exactly. I agree.
And Nazim Beltran also sent me an invite, so thank you so much, Nazim. He was just talking to me in the comment stream. But yeah, I mean, I'm like the complete opposite of Christine. I'm the latest adopter. Anything new in technology, I'd rather people try it, test it out, and then if it still works, I will get in, because I don't understand a lot of technical aspects of social platforms or whatever. I just like connecting with people. That's how I look at it. But yeah, this looks like fun. I mean, as a writer, I think I should check it out, because it is created by a group of artists, and so I think they understand what we like, what we need, and it has a very clean layout so far that I've read the history. I've just gone and checked it out. It's got a very clean layout, and that's quite refreshing. And yeah, so I think it's promising. But how it's going to fit in with the others, and you know, how brands are going to take advantage of it, it's going to be interesting to watch
That's
out
the
for.
biggest question I had right there was the promise of not doing advertisement or not wanting to manipulate the platform. I see that as disingenuous, because it's only a matter of time until it succeeds or it goes up the ladder, and as it does, they're going to do the same thing as everybody
Exactly.
else.
I don't believe any platform will be ad free. I mean, I think that's just to get people inside. I mean, I don't know. But I don't believe that. But it was an ingenious tactic for sure.
Yeah, if I may jump in, I am totally with Mark on that. I have to again thank Kristen because I found my G plus snobby nose going up in the air when Jim was asking, how do we feel about Ello? And I said, well, I just created a profile to protect my brand, but why should I be there when Google Plus is where it's at? And I didn't have my social networking hat on. I'm human, and I have to repeat what Kit said. I just like connecting with people, and at the end of the day, that is what it's about, and that's what Kristen schooled me on her paragraph. Thank you for that. Saying that she likes that it's a platform that you don't have all of that marketing and this, that, and the other. It's just people connecting, which is what I am all about. Personally, my mission right now is focused on G+, but if it's a platform that you find, as Kristen has that warm, fuzzy feeling about, do it. But I'm with Mark. I don't like the fact that they are saying, well, I like the fact that they're saying there's no advertising, but don't make promises you can't keep.
You don't totally trust that to be the end.
Yeah, don't make promises you can't keep.
Okay, and they haven't. They haven't, and they put right in there that it may change in the future, but right now this is what they're aiming for. And like I was saying, they're artists that came together to make it, and it's a small platform. They run on small servers. They don't have the capacity to run something as magnanimous as G Plus or Facebook. Like they're not there yet, and they have said in the future things could change, but right now this is what we're aiming for. So from that aspect, it's not disingenuous.
Yeah, you got to give them props for creativity and originality, though.
Yeah. I don't think they expected it to blow up. I mean, I think they had every wish that it would be very successful, but it just kind of suddenly blew up on them. Like it just almost overnight, went big and went huge. And I don't really think that they expected it to happen the way that it happened.
I look at it a little bit like Pinterest. I think it's going to be more, I don't know, do I call it? I mean, Pinterest has exploded a lot now, but it could be like a niche platform, for the more artistic brands or the more artistic solopreneurs. I think they will be able to be the early adopters of that platform, and then the regular folks will try to. But unless they really offer some advantage over the others, and I don't think no ads is really a long-term advantage, I don't know how they're going to fit in. That's what I'm just, when I saw your show description, that's what I thought about, is how is another social platform going to fit in this whole tapestry? I mean, there's already so much and nobody's able to keep up with everything. So how are they, really going to bring it in? But it's going to be interesting. I think it's interesting to, this is a great time for, exploration and creativity. So I think we should all just keep an open mind and see how it goes. And I really like Tim's comment here. He says, feels like a cross between Facebook and Twitter. Finding friends is a hunt and search at this point. So you have to dive into the noise portion. So a late adopter is really going to have difficulty finding new friends. At the same time, the platform pushes you to explore new friend options. So relationship development is going to be a key factor in the platform in the future. So I think it's going to be about who you know and on the platform that will really determine how far you go.
Right, and you know what? We talked towards the beginning of the show. We talked a little bit about niches and how when originally in TV there were like 3 or 4 stations, 3 stations, then 4 stations, then cable came in and there's like 700 stations all of a sudden. And what that forces to happen is for niches, right? I mean, even with the HOAs, I think now it's important that HOAs find their niche, find their unique platform. And what I've found in my little, maybe 3 or 4 times that I've dabbled into Ello already, is that it is definitely right now, anyways, it's definitely a niche. It's highly focused on artists. There are a lot of people from Colorado because I think Colorado is where the platform originated. So there are a lot of local, like Denver and people from Colorado on the platform. But it's very different. It's very unique. If you go over there, you're a little bit lost at first because of its uniqueness, because of the white space, because of everything else that's going on. But I think it's going to be a niche city now going forward, pretty much with everything social media.
I think you're correct, Jim. Totally correct. It's again, I'll say my little coin phrase. I'm going to probably do a write-up towards the end of the year here. Is 2014 the year of saturation?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna commit some heresy here.
Oh.
Google Plus is not an end; it's a means. And going back historically, before some of you were born, there were days like CompuServe,
CompuDollar,
and other platforms like that eventually evolved into. How many of you remember chat rooms?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes,
both.
all the way back.
Yeah. Okay. There was an evolution, and I think Ello becomes one of those things that is another step, an exploration. Okay. Who knows? But I think it's a very natural progression, and I think it's worth exploring, and then I think it's worth evaluating. And I think you can take the same template and apply it to Google Hangouts. Okay? I think you should explore, evaluate, and then say, is this a platform for me, or do I go somewhere else?
Yes. Nazim, in fact, says it's a great time for something new, and people love the new factor of Ello, which I think is true. But how long will they be able to sustain that newness, and will they continue to differentiate themselves? How will they differentiate themselves? So, I think it's, and I think Christine was highlighting Iman John's, yeah. I love this comment too. It says, but Google Plus feeds into Google Search, which is far from ad-free, and Hangouts feed into YouTube, which is far from ad-free. So yeah, I mean, every social media platform ultimately is a database, and that will be used in some way for monetization. So I don't see how this will be any different. But if it does, then props to them.
Good comment from Eamon.
Yeah, because I remember Phil, when I was on a show, we were doing the prep show, and I think it was with Ivana Taylor, I think that's her name. She's a really, I like her a lot, but she was saying how, we were kind of complaining about Google Hangouts and how it's acting up, and she said, but how do you complain about a tool that's free? So Phil said, but it's not really free. You do realize that you're giving up your entire personal information to Google, so you may not be paying monetarily, but you're paying into information, which in some ways is more expensive. So, every platform, I think that's kind of why I don't understand platform wars, because I think no platform really thinks about its viewers. They're not charitable platforms. I mean, they just do what's best for them. And they try to differentiate themselves in order to get more traffic, get more people. So I think we need to remember to not let tools use us, but we should control the tools. We should decide how we use the tools and not let tools overtake our life.
Well said. We got an echo from somewhere. Somebody got a window open?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I think. Do you still hear an echo? Then it's me.
Now it's gone. See, there was another window open, I think. It was well said. It's basically that they end up using our power. It's like Facebook's a great example of it. All these people came into the platform. They all started to build their groups and their niches, and then now Facebook is actually choking the feed and deciding who gets the feed or not. And that's just almost like robbing you. You put all that time and energy into building your niche and your audience, and now they're going to control it. So, but it's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I'll throw in my 2 cents before we close out. Totally on the same page. Well, 2.5 cents. Totally on the same page with Kit. Don't expect these platforms to do what you want them to do. I mean, Google Plus, the Google people, they have their vision of where they're going. Facebook, Ello, whoever. But we have access to it. If we choose to have access to it, then we should figure out the best way to leverage it for our message, our network. For me, it boils down to connecting, which is why, I have to maybe at least, kiss Kristen's butt for a week, because she put me back into my social networking mindset that at the end of the day, it's just about people. It's about being who you are, the best person you are, treating others right, and you will attract the right people to you. I'm not saying everyone's going to be your best friend, but there are people that you will click with, And as a result, you can create that brand visibility that you're looking for, whether or not you're using HOAs. HOAs to me is just a way to carry your message, and you should feel passionate about it, or it will show in that, or be reflected in that HOA that you're not.
Well said.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, yes.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm the one who's causing the echo, so I'm going to mute myself. But I'm going to go down. Thank you, Christine, for those closing thoughts, and I'm going to go down and ask the rest of the panel. So in the order on my film strip, John, you're next. So as we're closing out the show, what are some of your closing thoughts?
I think you take Ello, you take the Hangouts on Air, you just take the whole information age as a large sandwich, and what I do is think it's very much akin to the Industrial Revolution. I think we have hit a significant point in our evolution as a culture where this just isn't something used for fun, isn't something used for business. The whole information package, Kristen said she travels with her information on her back everywhere she goes. I don't know anybody that doesn't. This is a renaissance of sorts that we're going through, and I think the people who have the wisdom and the savvy to take advantage of it early on are going to be the people that are going to be very, very successful. Just think of one name, Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban made his money buying up .coms, .orgs, and .nets. That's where he made his success. Okay, I think in this genre, in these niches, the people who are savvy enough to positively exploit them are going to be the people who are going to be successful. And thanks for having me, Jim.
Oh, you're most welcome. So next on my list is Kristen. Oh, I think Kristen's muted.
Yeah, okay, I'm good now. You know, I'm doing that whole multitask thing. So like, oh, wait, I'm unmute. Okay. I didn't think I was next in the strip. Okay, so I'm passionate about G+. I just am. And I think that probably shows and comes off as genuine. I hope it does, because yeah, I don't know what I'm throwing at you if I'm not throwing that. I love Hangouts. I love the tool itself. I just think it's amazing the way that we can connect face-to-face with people that are in a total other area in the world, and it's been my saving grace as far as attaining friends. It just has, and I couldn't be more pleased to have had this discussion with you guys. We've all had like different points of view, and this is the power of Hangouts right here. We can have this, and we can learn, and we can grow, and we can get great new ideas done.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen. Let's go to Mark. So, hey, Mark, once again, thank you for joining us on Get Busy with Kit and Jim. I hope you'll come back. We should do a music show sometime, so I hope you'll come back and visit us sometime soon.
I appreciate
it. Yeah, what are your closing thoughts?
Just goes back to what John was saying, because it goes back to the beginning of the internet and the evolution of culture that has been caused by the internet overall, that it's not going to stop changing and growing and evolving, but the information age is here, and that message is starting to go out. I remember when it first started, it was all about kind of poo-pooing the internet, and that people didn't think that the relationships were on the internet were true, and that you couldn't have true relationships. And now Google's come in with the Hangouts on Air, and people are starting to change that whole premise that these relationships do matter, that our interaction does matter, and that this whole platform is becoming, it's evolving. It's a whole new thing. So, viva the internet.
I love it. I love it. Viva the internet. Good point. Okay, hey, Kit.
Oh, we had so much fun. Thank you so much, Christine, Kristen, John, and Mark. Mark, I'm a new fan. We've not interacted before, but this has been a great experience. I've learned a lot from you, so thank you. My last thoughts would be, forget about the platforms, focus on the people. choose the right P wherever you are, whatever platform you prefer, that's fine. But focus on building relationships with the right people, not just with the popular cool kids, but the ones that really matter to you. Have your core circle of 50 to 100 people that you know you can rely on, who you know will be there for you, because that's the group that's really going to carry you on their shoulders very happily, so you can achieve your goals. And the other thing I would say is, when it comes to hangouts, don't focus on the numbers. Not every hangout is going to be equally popular, but we talked about curiosity, we talked about chemistry. The third C that I'm going to throw out is consistency. So if you believe in your show, and if you believe that this is going to positively impact your audience in some way, keep at it. Even if you have 10 viewers for the first year, it doesn't matter. Those 10 viewers will spread the word and it will grow. So focus on connecting with that core group of audience who really love you and who want you to come back every week. So that would be my final thought.
I love it. Yeah, keep the focus on the people, keep the focus on your niche, and deliver quality, every single time. I personally, I can't help but look at the numbers, because I think the numbers reflect something. But I agree, you have to be really cautious, because there are numbers, and then there are numbers, and there's the way you resonate, and then I think, like we said, there's always replay city, and there's a whole lot of numbers going on in replay city.
Yeah,
right?
I think what I meant was, when it comes to numbers, okay, do not compare yourself with others. I'll put it that way.
Right.
You kind of focus on your own numbers. That's fine, because they tell you something. If nobody's watching your show, that means something is wrong. Either your show is not good, you're not promoting it well, something is amiss over there. But do not compare yourself with others, because that will. I'm speaking from experience. I'm very big on comparisons. I compare myself with everybody. I'm still struggling with it, so I know how it paralyzes me. So try not to do it, because just focus on being the best version of you every day is what everyone says, and that's what I would say too.
Yep. Somebody said something, and there was a great hashtag in my brain, and then it just totally went away.
Hoopless.
So when it comes back to me, I'll post it in the comments section.
I just wanted to say one more thing about what Katie was saying. That just totally made me think, yes, if you have evergreen content, if what you are creating in your Hangout, it doesn't matter if you have no viewers. You put it on your website, and that's something. That is something that you can use.
Yeah, totally. So when that hashtag comes back to me, I'll post it up in the comments section. Again, I want to thank everybody for joining us on Get Busy. There were a couple. Right now, I don't have talking about planning and being prepared. I don't have a show idea yet put together for next week. But actually, as a result of today's shows, I've got like several ideas. There was somebody out in the comment stream. I think it might have been Amen Johns, if I pronounced the name correctly, who suggested maybe LinkedIn as a topic. I know for sure in the next couple of weeks, Mark, I definitely want to do the music business thing. So anyways, viewers, thank you. I know there are a lot of alternatives. I know there are a ton of different HOAs out there. I know there are a lot of things that you can be doing. So I'm super stoked that you took some time and tuned in to Get Busy today. Hope you got what you needed out of the show. One of our big missions is to make sure that we deliver every single week. And so we look to do that. Thank you all, and we will see you again next week. And maybe, hold on, I'll close out with this from Carmen. Carmen says, I keep coming back for more. She's one of our staunchest viewers. Carmen, thank you so much.
We love you.
Yes, for being there for us every single time. But Carmen, she keeps coming back for more quality. Hashtag you got it. So take care, everyone. Have a great weekend, or have a great week, and we will see you next week on Get Busy.